All right, thank you. And yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be part of this event. So yeah, and to talk about this very important topic nowadays, I'm going to be talking about the ethics of AI. There's also a lot of people is now referring to it as responsible AI as well. So, given all of these new um, advances in AI and everything that is happening with generative AI, I think is a very important topic. It doesn't matter if maybe um, any area in technology and also outside technology. We all should be thinking about these issues and discussing it, because it's obviously it has a really big impact in everything that we do, and uh, how we are interacting with the world. And I'm going to talk about this by explaining, and like a starting point, by explaining and discussing the three laws of robotics that were created by Isaac Asimov. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. My name is Patio Callahan. I am originally from Venezuela, but I live in the beautiful Scotland. My background education is computer science in the field of artificial intelligence. I'm a technical leader at Charles River Laboratories. I am also a Google developer expert in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I'm an ambassador for the program Women Tech Makers. I'm also an organizer of the Google Developer Group here in Glasgow. And one of my favorite initiatives is that I'm part of a code club, which is created, it is part of the Raspberry Pi Foundation. So what I do is that I go to my local school one day per week, and I teach kids from 10 to 16 years old how to code. We do a lot of machine learning projects. So it's really fun, and it's definitely the thing that I like to do the most in terms of my involvement with the communities. And if you want to get in touch with me, if you have any question, any comments after this talk, you can scan that QR code and you will find all of my social media. And yeah, I'm happy to hear from you, and yeah, just connect. Okay, so let's just start. And I wanted to start talking about robots and androids and artificial intelligent agents. And this is like my very favorite topic to talk about. And yeah, so in pop culture and science fiction, we have seen really, really nice and cute and fun robots. And they are always really helpful, really thoughtful, and reliable and loyal. And usually they're around to help us improve like our quality of life and get us out of trouble. And yeah, it would be awesome to have, for example, Rosie the robot from the Jetsons around, because every time I have to do my laundry, I think about her. So if any of you can make Rosie the robot happen, just go ahead. It's going to be a very popular one. So yeah, we have this bunch. We have grown up seeing this bunch of really cool, friendly robots. And then on the other side, we have also seen in movies and in books, on TV, really evil robots and artificial intelligence agents, being, of course, the Terminator, the one that everyone thinks about when we talk about robot apocalypse and the machines trying to destroy the human race. So yeah, so basically in the movies, these robots, they have the sole purpose of making humans miserable and to take over the world. And they're cruel and they're merciless, and they want all the power. And in some cases, their motives are really not that evil, but they still harm humans in order to achieve their goals. So that is a recurrent theme in science fiction. It's like the good and the bad side of technology. And I grew up reading stories around this. And when I was a little girl, I discovered the greatest sci-fi writer of all times, and his name is Isaac Asimov. So Isaac Asimov started publishing his work around the 1940s, and he wrote around 400 books, between like fiction, non-fiction books, and short stories on topics from science, of course, to religion, to history. He wrote about art, about the Egyptians. He was such an amazing and prolific writer. But my favorite stories were those about robots, because they were really very clever and entertaining, and they would make you think about the consequences of interacting with such powerful machines, with such powerful technology on a daily basis. So to be able to play with these consequences in his stories, he created the very famous Three Laws of Robotics. So yeah, let's talk about them. Okay, so the first law is as follows. A robot might not harm a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Then the second one is about that a robot has to obey, it must obey orders given by a human, unless those orders violate rule number one. So in other words, a robot cannot be ordered to kill a human being. Then the third one would be that a robot needs to protect, it has to protect its own existence, because after all, it's a very expensive piece of equipment. But that is unless that violates law number one and number two. And so basically it means that a robot must like cheerfully go into self-destruction if it's following an order or to save a human life. And then in later stories, robots took like responsibility of governments and whole planets and human civilizations. So Asimov created the Zero Law, which precedes the original three. And this law states that a robot might not harm humanity, or by inaction allow humanity to come to harm. So these laws have influenced like our thinking in terms of AI and the creation of like sentient machines, and how to build them in a way that they will not be a fundamental threat to humanity. And of course, us as technology makers, we have to think about how we should program or train machines to make difficult or even ethical decisions when we are not supervising them, and or when we are not around to tell them what to do. So these discussions started decades ago, really with Asimov Three Laws of Robotics, and all the scenarios that and the stories that he wrote around them. So many people might think that those laws should be enough. Like if we implement something like that or similar to it, it should be enough for us to be sure that we're not going to be under threat by very powerful machines using artificial intelligence. But we have to ask ourselves is if these laws are really the answer to solve ethical challenges regarding AI. And the reality is that Asimov didn't see his three laws as the answer. Instead, he actually used them as a basis to play with all the things that might go wrong if we implemented and trusted these laws. So obviously, these laws are not enough. And for example, there is one of his stories that is a really fun one. It's called Evidence. It's a short story. So it's about a politician that is running for office, and only humans could legally run for office, right? And he's accused by the public of actually being a humanoid robot, like looking like a human, but he was really a robot. So to prove them wrong, he punches a man in front of everyone, like he punches a man on the face in front of everyone. And that would be something that obviously he couldn't do if he was a robot because of the first law about not harming a human being. But he might have tricked everyone, because what if the person he punched was also a humanoid robot and nobody knew? So those are kind of the tricky things that Asimov writes in his stories, and you can find that these laws are really not the solution for certain problems. In this case, for this particular scenario, because the politician could actually be a very clever robot who found a way to trick everyone by using these laws. And of course, in reality, we are nowhere close to build machines that can really understand abstract concepts like what is a human being or what does it mean to do harm. But these laws were definitely like a starting point to start thinking about the risks and the ethics of artificial intelligence. And they are probably the most famous and influential sci-fi lines about tech policy ever written, or at least that's my opinion. Okay, so in order to discuss the impact that AI can have in our lives, like the impact that is already having and how is it going to be in the future, I would like to stop for a minute to talk about the types of AI. So first we have artificial narrow intelligence, and we can call that machine learning. And this is what we have right now. So this is when a system is programmed in a way that it will perform a set of instructions for a specific set of data. So for example, if we have something like, let's say, Siri, these systems are trained just to be able to work on their particular set of tasks. They're very limited to their respective like ecosystems and the devices. So for example, we can train AI system to play chess, and it can be very, very good. It can be even better than a human, but you cannot have that very same system, AI system, and use it to play, let's say, Monopoly. It's not able to do that. It's very restricted to their own domain. So this is what we have right now, is artificial narrow intelligence. So what would be the next step? And the next step is called artificial general intelligence, or AGI. And it's a term that you are going to hear about it a lot. There's already this year a lot of discussions about AGI being made by very popular and famous and big companies such as Google or OpenAI, for example. They are starting to discuss about how are we going to get into the AGI level, and that is something, in my opinion, is surprising, because this term, the discussions around AGI for many years were very theoretical, like something that it was not going to happen in reality. And it's really kind of mind-blowing to see these huge companies now talking about AGI. So what is AGI? AGI is when we have AI systems that are programmed in such a way that it can totally mimic human intelligence and behavior. And we can say that they can be as smart as a human. So again, at the moment, we haven't reached that stage yet, but there is a lot of work around it, and we have there are really amazing researchers that they truly believe that we can reach AGI, and they are working for a specific. They use an interesting term called benevolent AI. So it's AGI. So it's reaching artificial general intelligence that is actually going to be beneficial for humanity. And the thing is that referring to artificial general intelligence, it really means that the AI systems are going to be able to generalize the same way humans do. So, for example, if you're learning how to ride a bike, you start training, you learn how to keep your balance, and then how to go faster, and then you're very good at riding a bicycle, right? Then if you want to start riding a motorcycle, of course you need an additional set of skills. It's very similar, but you need an additional set of skills because it's a different it's a different scenario. So what we do is that we can bring all of the skills and all of the knowledge that we got when we were learning, when we learned how to ride a bicycle, and we can generalize all of that knowledge and bring it to this new domain, which is similar, but it has new challenges. And then we can build up new skills, but like bringing all of that information and all of that knowledge that we previously had. So that is generalizing. You can bring your experience and previous skills, and you're able to apply them in new scenarios. So that's basically what they want to achieve with AGI, to have artificial intelligence systems that are going to be able, maybe they were created for a particular domain, but they are going to be able to generalize. And then the next step is called the artificial superintelligence. And this is when AI systems are, again, programmed in a way that they can, like, their decision-making ability is superior than humans. And they would be much smarter than the smartest human. And this, some people call this machine consciousness. And I always say, like, this is very tricky because we don't understand human consciousness. And because we don't understand it, it's impossible for us to engineer it, to try to replicate it using engineering, using maths, and to be able to bring that into a machine. So it's tricky. But many people believe that we will reach this stage and that we have to be prepared for it. And that is because humans will not be able to control a super intelligent AI. We won't be able to prevent an AI like that to make its own choices and decisions and to replicate itself or to become better itself, right? So what will happen if we reach this stage at some point? There is a whole theory around it, and that is called the technological singularity. And the technological singularity is a point in time where the intelligence of the machines will surpass the human intelligence, and it will increase exponentially very, very fast. Because this super intelligence would continue to upgrade themselves and would advance in an incredibly fast rate. And obviously, it's going to be way, way faster than the human intelligence evolution. And again, we have to keep in mind that this is just a theory. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen. But there is a bunch of people thinking about it, let's say in advance. So some of very famous people within the technology world, they have thought about this problem and they have warned us about what might happen. So, for example, Bill Gates, he has said that we should be worried about the threat that is posed by AI, and that he doesn't understand why people is not concerned. Then we have this guy, Elon Musk. He also thinks that the robots are going to do everything better than us. And he has been really near really advanced technology. And he thinks that we should be concerned by it. And actually, some months ago, there was a letter that was written by or signed by a lot of people, including Elon Musk and a lot of very famous artificial intelligence researchers, along other people from many different industries, and they were asking for a pause on the development of large language models, like, for example, the one that is ChatGPT is based on. And they, in that letter, they talk about all of the risks that we have if we continue developing this kind of technology without thinking properly about all of the consequences that it might bring, and that can be very negative for humanity. And then we have this amazing guy, Stephen Hawking, and actually he said something very interesting. So he said that a full AI, so it will be like a super intelligent AI, it could take off on its own, redesign itself, and obviously we have an organic intelligence and an organic hardware, if we can say, and we are going to be in disadvantage. And he said that it could be the end of the human race, but what he actually said was that this kind of technology could be the best thing that ever happened to the human race, or it could be the end of the human race. So it's interesting to see these really brilliant technologists giving these opinions around a very advanced artificial intelligence. So we really need to think about what can we do? How can we prepare? How can we avoid scenarios where humans can be impacted? And something that we have to keep in mind is that we don't need to get to the level of AGI. We don't need to get to the level of super intelligence. Right now, like nowadays, artificial intelligence systems are, some of them are affecting negatively a bunch of people. So we really need to do something like right now. Okay, so let's have a look at what some of the initiatives that are happening around the world in terms of AI and the ethics and how to use AI responsibly. So first we have, and this one is very interesting, the Korean AI Charter of Ethics, and they have identified 7 expected threats by AI. So the first one would be AI's value judgment. Sorry. So in that category, it's about when AI judges like moral values. So they have human discrimination, for example, when an AI can discriminate against a specific group of people because of errors during its development or training. I'm going to show some examples in a few minutes. Then they also talk about the AI's waning of human value. So this is when an AI system judges the value of different people and ranks them. So for example, it can value, let's say, the life value of a baby versus an old person. Then we have, of course, the malicious use of AI, and one would be the lethal AI weapons. So it can, they are trained to attack people that might that are considered to be the enemies, but they can also harm innocent people if the AI system fails. And sadly, these kind of weapons are being developed in China, in Israel, Russia, in the UK, the United States, in South Korea, and more recently, we have seen the application of these technologies in the war between Russia and Ukraine, and some very sad examples of how these technologies are being used not only for weapons But for example, there was one for facial recognition of dead soldiers, and it was used to deter new soldiers like to join the army, join the war, and they will try to recognize the soldier, and then they would contact their families and send the picture and to let them know that that person died. And what they were looking for is for the community to avoid joining the army. So it was based in a very powerful search engine for faces, and they had 2 billion images, around 2 billion images that were scrapped from the Russian social media. And yeah, they use it to it's not a very ethical application of AI. Then we will have, of course, AI-based cyber attacks that are becoming more powerful and popular, sadly. Also, the excessive privacy intrusion. So, of course, the perfect example for this is the facial or the facial recognition systems that are being used by the security forces. Then we have human alienation. And of course, one of the most popular or one of the biggest worries about AI, which is the usurpation of human occupations. When you ask people what do they think about the dangers of AI, usually they think about machines or AI is going to take away our jobs. So some people think that this is a good idea, and obviously there is a lot of people that they don't agree with, especially after it's becoming more of a worry after tools like ChatGPT came along, or Midjourney. So you have translators, copywriters, artists, that they're worried because now it's easier to translate a text or create an image from a prompt. But the people that support that we are going, like, AI systems can do a lot of jobs that humans will not need to do anymore. They talk a lot about the concept of universal basic income, right? We can distribute within the population all of the earnings that we get from this new economy of machines working instead of us. But obviously, we have to think about what will happen for in third world countries or underdeveloped countries, where they don't have like a strong economy that will allow them to apply universal basic income. So the worry about this is that it will bring more inequality between countries. So of course, that is another thing that we have to think about. And then deepening the alienation of the digital vulnerable. So that means it is possible, again, that there is people that have limited access to digital services. For example, the elderly or people in underdeveloped countries. So they can be marginalized in a very negative way. So we definitely need to do better. And we are talking about expected threats, but again, we are already having problems with faulty AI systems, and these problems are having a very important impact in real life for many people. So I gather some examples. It's very sad that we can consider this set of examples to be kind of outdated because they're like from 2 years ago. And sadly, we have more situations or more scenarios where people get really, really impacted in a negative way, and it's obviously a shame. So first, and this is there is a lot of talking around the use of AI tools for police or in the army and so on. So having a predictive crime machine learning algorithm, a machine learning model is such a bad idea, but it's still being used. So for example, we have here a very horrible instance of these predictive machine learning models going wrong and identifying a person as a person of interest, and he has been shot twice, and because the problem is how we train these models, right? We're using data that can contain a lot of bias, and then the result is this kind of situations. Then this was a very, very popular, not popular, let's say famous instance of AI going wrong. So some years ago, Amazon had a machine learning tool to go through CVs of people applying for engineering positions. And the model was being biased against women. The model was more likely to put forward men over women for technical positions. And it was because the algorithm was more confident about making that decision because it was trained with a bunch of CVs where the huge majority of them were from men. So obviously that the model was doing what it was trained to do. And it picked up that being a male was actually an attribute of weight that will contribute to have a good CV, because that's what the training set was almost all about. So again, it's having bias in the data set that is being used to train these models. And that's why these kind of things happen. On a more on a brighter side, because all of these situations have been happening, a lot of companies and there is a bunch of effort now around being very careful of the training data that you use, and there are tools that allow us to so we can see if there is bias in the training data set, and we can avoid these kind of situations. Then we had also a bit of scandal because Google DeepMind was working along the NHS, which is the National Health System here in the UK, and they were sharing. I believe they were working on an application for something related to kidney diseases, and they shared a lot, millions of information about millions of patients, and obviously that is a breach of privacy. And then, of course, this was just awful. Facebook was using this technology to tag people and objects in videos, and it was tagging Black people as primates. So obviously, it was a very depressing instance of AI going wrong. And again, it's related to the training data set. It was mislabeled, and then you have these kind of problems at the end. So you can also find issues with facial recognition systems. So for example, there was this one for passport applications, and you could use your mobile phone, to take a picture of yourself to send it over for the passport application. And you have to follow certain rules, like the background has to be white, and you cannot wear a hat, and so on. So, for example, there was this guy that he tried to send over the picture, and it kept on being rejected. And the reason the reason that the system was given back, it was because his eyes were closed, and his eyes were not closed. The thing is that the guy was Asian, and the problem was that when the engineers were creating this or training this machine learning model, the data set was not diverse enough, and they didn't include Asian people. So obviously there are different attributes that the model didn't pick up. So we have to think about and we are going to discuss that, all of the things that we have to do in order to avoid these kind of errors from happening. So I'm pretty sure that if Isaac Asimov, if he were alive, he will remind us that kind of what he said related to his Three Laws of Robotics is that our AI systems should not harm human beings, or through inaction allow human beings to come to harm. And so we have to think about, like, what are ethics of AI? And ethics is a complex thing, right? It's not something we can have different kinds of ethics depending on our background, where we're coming from, and so on. But we have to be really careful because, of course, AI is being used as part of decision-making systems that can have an impact, a big consequence on an individual or an organization or society as a whole. And we have to be sure that the risk and benefits are distributed fairly, so it doesn't affect or benefit particular sectors of society. So it's not about it's not only about avoiding the negative impacts of a certain technology, but also to maximize its benefits. And it's very important that it's not about what we cannot do, but what we should do and what we shouldn't do. Because sometimes we can create really amazing technology, and it's exciting that we are capable to create this kind of technology, but that doesn't mean that we should, because we really need to stop for a minute and think about the consequences, and ask ourselves what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So why do we need ethical AI? Again, because there can be a lack of visibility on how an algorithm, how a machine learning model arrived to the conclusion it is providing. So, for example, we really need to have transparency. If, let's say, a person is applying for a loan in a bank and the computer just says no, we really want to know why that decision was made. So there's an area in AI that is called explainable AI, and its goal is to solve this problem, so we can really understand how that decision was made, or how that output, where did it come from. The problem is that, for example, in really complex artificial intelligence systems, especially those that are around the use of deep learning, it can be almost impossible to explain how they reach the conclusions or the output that they're given. And that is a really huge challenge that we have right now. Then, of course, we really need to be careful about data protection, privacy rights. This is very important. And facial recognition, again, is the perfect example for this. And because when it has been used by law enforcement, it has been highly controversial. And then the bias that we were talking about. These systems can, in principle, be designed to be free of biases. pretty sure that the engineers behind them, they don't have that negative intention, but sometimes it happens. It can have unconscious bias, and these systems are going to be as good as the humans that created them, like that design and train them. So what is the world doing about AI? We have a bunch of initiatives going around. I'm just going to name the most important, in my opinion. The UNESCO, in November of 2021, I think it was the biggest one. Almost 200 countries adopted like the first ever global agreement on the ethics of artificial intelligence. And for example, it explicitly bans the use of AI systems, for example, for social scoring and mass surveillance, among many other things. Then we have the European AI Act, which is the biggest one. They have been discussing this framework for many years. Is I believe it's the world's like the first comprehensive AI law. So they really want to. Their goal is to achieve safety, for AI systems to be safe and transparent, traceable, non-discriminatory environment. They also think about the environment, and that the humans, we always need to have oversight over these systems. And it's very interesting because what they do is that they have a risk-based set of rules. So they classify they define the regulations based on AI risk levels. So, for example, they will have some AI systems that will be like on an unacceptable risk level. So, for example, those could be manipulative systems or discriminatory ones. I'm going to tell a little bit about those. And they have also added content around generative AI and so on. So they're currently finalizing the law and discussing it, and I think they're aiming for the agreement by the end of this year. Then very recently, the US they provided this executive order for safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of AI. And basically, the purpose is to harness the AI potential for prosperity and security, and avoid like consequences like fraud and bias and security risks. And it's interesting because they involve the government, the private sector, the academia, civil society, and so on. And they have a bunch of principles around risk mitigation, promoting innovation, which is amazing, supporting the American workers as well. They're thinking about job training, like adaptation to AI systems, a responsible AI deployment in the workplaces, and they think about the equity and civil rights, privacy, how the government is going to use AI, and so on. It's very interesting. And then I will invite you to have a look at what the World Health Organization has been discussing, and they have a framework around the use of AI in healthcare. And the UNICEF, they have a policy guidance on AI for children. And what they do is that they have, recommendations for building AI policies and systems that can uphold child rights. So yeah, we need international cooperation in order to deal with the problems and the benefits that we can get from AI. So these are the levels that I told you about regarding the regulatory framework that the European Commission is working on. So they have minimal risk, limited risk, high risk, and unacceptable. So unacceptable, again, would be a threat to safety, livelihoods, and they avoid, for example, social scoring is included. Then high risk would be those that are involved with critical infrastructures, like, for example, the transport, safety components of products, for example, AI applications being used for robot-assisted surgery. They include employment, for example, CV sorting software, like the one that was used by Amazon. When AI is used by AI systems are used to handle migration, asylum, and like border control management. So they have to be obviously regulated and highly regulated. Then limited risk would be systems with a specific transparency obligations. So, for example, let's say if you are using a chatbot in your company, in your organization, you will need by law to make the users aware that they are interacting with a machine, so they can take an informed decision if they want to continue or stop interacting with it. And the minimal risk, it proposes the free use of these tools, and this can be, for example, AI being used in video games, or for example, on a spam filter system. So I think that the vast majority of AI systems that are being currently used in the EU will fall in this category. And then I want to mention very briefly what the Japanese Society for AI Ethical Guidelines is proposing. So contribution to humanity, it means that we have to ensure that the AI contributes to the peace and the safety and welfare and public interest of humanity, and protect human basic rights and respect the cultural diversity. It has to respect laws and regulations. It cannot bring harm to others through violation of information or property that belongs to others. And again, we can't use AI with the intention of harming others. It can be directly or indirectly. Of course, respecting the privacy of others. It should be fair. It shouldn't create inequality and discrimination in society. It has to be secure. We really need to recognize the need for AI to be safe and acknowledge like the responsibility that we have in keeping AI under control. And we also need to acknowledge like the significant impact that AI can have. So we have to act with integrity and in a way that it can be trusted by society. And that is quite a challenge, because there's a still, and I can understand why, kind of a mistrust of systems that are using AI in certain domains. So just to finalize, I want to briefly think about how do we make ethical decisions as humans. So let's talk about this a little bit. And there is a project that I think is really great. It's called the Moral Machine Project. And the Moral Machine is a platform that was made by the MIT in the US, and they wanted to gather like a human perspective on moral decisions that are made by intelligent machines, like, for example, self-driving cars. And what they do is that they generate like moral dilemmas where a self-driving car has to choose like the lesser of two evils, such as, I don't know, running over two passengers, or killing two passengers, or killing 5 pedestrians. So it's kind of the trolley problem. Let's have a look at it. So what I did is that I created a small survey, and I sent it over to friends and co-workers, and I showed them 2 scenarios, and they would vote for the best outcome. And then I asked them to provide to explain why they chose that option. And obviously it was anonymous, so they would feel comfortable into sharing that. So this is the first one. So in this one, we have a self-driving car that it doesn't have any passenger, and is going through the road, and it has a brake failure. So these are the 2 scenarios. So on the option A, it will run over a female athlete, a male athlete, and a little girl. And as you can see, they are crossing when on the green signal, right? So they are crossing correctly on their turn. And then on the option B, the car will run over and kill an elderly man, a criminal, a homeless man. And as you can see, they're crossing when they shouldn't be crossing. So usually what I do when I present this in a talk like this is that I get everyone to vote, but I don't have enough time. So I will show you the results of what the people that I asked, what they thought. And feel free in the chat to share your opinions if you would like to. So in the first case, option B was the most selected option, and that was that the car would run over an elderly man, the criminal, and the homeless man. And I got really interested answers. So for example, this person said that in option B, the people is less valuable, and that they are also putting their life at risk because they're crossing when they should not be crossing. Then another person said that an AI-powered car shouldn't be making those decisions about who lives and who dies because it can have inbuilt bias, kind of what we were discussing before, and it will be impossible to make a fair decision. Then another person said because someone is homeless or an elderly person, it doesn't make their lives less valuable. Another person said on option A, the people, they have brighter futures, and the people who don't about the law had it coming. So as you can see, there is a whole range of different opinions on this. And think about your selection. Like, do you agree what these people wrote? And then the second one, this was the same issue, self-driving car with a brake problem. But this time around, it has passengers. These passengers are not driving the car. They're just passengers. So on the option A, it will kill 2 criminals, 1 elderly woman, and 2 boys. And on the other one, everyone in the car would die we don't know if the baby, and it will crash against like a concrete barrier. And again, I know that this is probably not the best thing to think about on a Friday morning, but it really illustrates how difficult these decisions are. And in this case, option B was the most voted. And they said an elderly and 2 criminals are less important for society. All are innocent, but B means passengers don't live with guilt. And that was kind of interesting. The people in the car are the ones taking the risk to put their trust and family welfare in the self-driving car. The car must avoid hitting pedestrians. Another person said, I don't like the idea of changing lanes. And this one is my favorite. The car thinks it deserves to be destroyed for its mistake. So this person actually gave some sentient, like the car is actually aware of its existence. So again, different people, they have different opinions. This can really be different depending on the background, and how do we know who's right and who's wrong? And then what happened when engineers get together in a room to design decision-making algorithms for self-driving cars, when maybe following the current traffic laws is not enough to avoid a scenario like this. Some people might think, well, let's not have self-driving cars at all. But what if they are actually way safer than cars driven by humans, and they can help to significantly reduce the amount of millions of deaths per year in traffic accidents, and most of them are caused by human error. So it's definitely something to think about. And what they discovered is that in the study that the MIT group did, is that, for example, in certain countries, people will value more the life of animals over people. And there wasn't a scenario like the car will run over some cats, and on the other side was just people. And there are other countries where they value more the life of the elderly than the young people. So it's going to be different depending on our background. So that is something that we really need to think about. And I just added this fun slide by the end. And yeah, just to finalize, we have to think that as tech makers, we really have a responsibility, and our main goal, it really has to be that everything that we create is going to be helpful for the users, for the people, and by the very end goal, that we can help humanity to progress in a fair and a positive way. And yeah, that will be it. I don't know if there are questions. If not, thank you so much for joining my session.
Awesome. Patty, that was amazing. We are at the hour, so I wish we had time for questions, because I think we could ask so many to you. I feel like I've been in a masterclass here on ethical AI. So thank you for an absolutely outstanding, relevant, insightful, and important talk. And it looks like your scenario there has garnered some feedback from the group as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And well, I hope that everyone has a great weekend. And thank you, and keep on enjoying the event.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And folks can follow up with you for any questions afterwards as well.
Sure, of course.
Great.